What is up, my friends? So today we have a Maniac ending explained. I'm just going to talk about the ending, you guys, because there's a lot to dissect in this show in itself. And this video is probably going to run longer than I expected it to, so I'm just talking about the ending. We'll talk about the dreams, the hallucinations, and their meanings as well in another video, which should come out by the end of this week. But right now, let's just dive into the ending. Before I can do that, quick review about the show. Because if you haven't watched this show, I highly suggest you do. It is one of those shows that's going to be like, what the fuck am I watching? But I promise you, get through half of it and you're going to be good and you're just going to be wanting more and more. But pretty much this show basically deals with a clinical trial where they're testing out this drug that will help with grief and big pains mentally that you're suffering through, depression, anxiety, all of that. And we follow two individuals. We follow Owen and we follow Annie. Now, Owen is apparently schizophrenic and Annie is suffering through a deep depression after her sister passed away. And we just see them have these trials, and the trials get pretty interesting as the show goes on, and they are like metaphors and whatnot. So there's a lot to dissect in them. As I said, I'll talk about all of that in another video. So I'm just going to talk about the ending right now. And if you're just joining me for the first time ever, hit that subscribe button, like, share, comment, all that good stuff. But let's get into the ending. This is the last time I'm saying this. I'm talking about the ending. Many people in other videos get pissed off when I just go into the ending. Other people get pissed off when I'm explaining the whole show. I'm going to do what I want, and I'm giving you spoilers, so don't be pissed off about that. And hey, let's just go. So basically, as I said, within the show, we have these characters going through these clinical trials where they take these drugs that have them hallucinate, dream, whatever you want to call it. Now, Annie and Owen are different, where their dreams are colliding with one another. This happens after the computer that is running the simulations and everything, so the head honcho computer, basically has a sort of deal with grief, because the computer was actually like in love with one of the scientists, and then that scientist actually died because he pretty much like overdosed. He was taking the pills recreationally and he died. So the computer is grieving, and she has sort of like a tear of sorts, but it's not really a tear because she's a computer, but that actually comes into the subject 1 and 9, who is both Owen and Annie's little like wires, and then that causes them to like kind of fuse and whatnot. And then throughout the whole series, they're just meeting up in each other's dreams and hallucinations and helping each other overcome the things. Now, these dreams and hallucinations basically take them into a fantasy world that they never experienced before, but it has all of the factors that have their anxiety, depression, and fears all manifest themselves in these dreams and fantasies, maybe as different people, as different situations, but pretty similar if you look at a bigger picture and not look at the details. Now, we see that throughout the series as well, this computer is getting a little crazier, and her mental like state is getting a lot more warped. We do know that she has become this way because one of the other scientists, Azumi, actually put empathy into her, and now these feelings are growing as she goes on, and they're on the 73rd iteration of this test. So we can assume that this computer is pretty sentient at this point, but unstable because she lacks other emotions that us humans have that make us be like, okay, maybe this isn't so right as I'm thinking. Because if you're just dealing with the emotion of passion, but you don't have the emotion of self-control or the emotion of knowing what's best, then you're just going to do things passionately, and we know that's not going to end well. So that's what this computer is doing right now. So the scientists are like, we have to put a stop to her because we're realizing now that she's lonely, and she's not going to let our subjects wake up from these dreams and hallucinations because she can be there with them, and that's what she wants. She wants that company. She wants to feel loved, and the scientists are like, okay, we got to put an end to all these tests and trials. But the computer has pretty much already overridden everything, so now it's up to Owen and Annie, who are trapped in these hallucinations and dreams, to break free out of them. They ultimately do so, and then the trial ends, and the scientists are like, okay, it was a success. And then we just see Owen battling with his family, as we saw from the beginning, because he was battling his family who wanted him to lie and cover for his brother, who basically sexually abused one of his coworkers, and Owen was supposed to say, nah, my brother didn't do it because he was with me the whole time. We see this go to trial, and then we see Owen have a breakthrough and be like, you know what, fuck my family, fuck my brother, I'm telling the truth. And then his brother gets incriminated, and his family, in retaliation, the shitbags they are, they institutionalize him into a mental hospital, and he's there on his own. On the other side of things, we see Annie throughout the trial have more and more closure and not blame herself for her sister's death, and actually be able to put that in the past. And she goes and reconciles with her father. They have a heart-to-heart, and then she decides to go to Salt Lake City. Before all of this happened, after the trial ended, Annie and Owen decided to just part ways and be like, you know what? It's better off that we don't stay together or keep talking. Let's just part ways. So they never find out exactly who is who, where they are, and whatnot. But what's pretty interesting, and what makes Annie have a lot more faith in the universe, because before that she just said it was all chaos, that there was never some pattern or master plan to it all. But as she's riding in the car, she sees a newspaper, and it has Owen on there talking about how he incriminated his own brother, because Owen's family comes from money, so they're a pretty big name. And Annie finds out that he has been institutionalized. She goes to find him, and then she breaks him out of the institution, and they drive off. The end. They're happy. That's what a lot of people are assuming, and myself included would want this ending, and I really think it could be the ending. But there's a lot of inconsistencies that happen throughout this last sequence that makes you wonder, are we still in another simulation or hallucination dream, and did Greta get her way? That's really one of the interesting things about this show, is the computer still holding everybody hostage here? And this theory might be crazy, and you're probably clicking off the video because you're like, no, it's a happy ending, leave it at that. But no, I think that there's more to it, because one of the things that people are pointing out is that when Annie goes to the hospital where Owen is being institutionalized, at the top of her name, there's a name that says Wendy Lemura. Yeah, what the hell's wrong with that? Well, in one of the first dreams in hallucination, Owen and Annie have to actually go and rescue this, I forgot the name of the animal. Oh, it's a lemur, of course, lemura. And the name of the lemur is Wendy. So Wendy Lemura. Yeah, so a lot of people are saying that that's kind of interesting to see. And then we also see one of the cars that is in those dreams and hallucination actually be in the dream and hallucination. On one of the first ones, actually be the actual car for Azumi, one of the scientists in the trials, and the license plate is 0190119. So if you're not too familiar with those numbers, Owen was test number 1, Azumi was test number 2. So many people were pointing out, could that actually mean that they are still in this dream, or did they see that car before and they carry those numbers with them? But then that wouldn't make any sense for Wendy Lemura being in those dreams and hallucinations, because this is the first time we ever seen this name, unless we're just talking is this somebody maybe that Owen might have come across, or Annie before? It's pretty debatable to see, but I really do think that it could also be a dream, because Owen actually talks about having this car ride fantasy back in episode 5, I believe, when he's talking to Annie, that would be the ideal fantasy to have, that him and Annie escape everything, they drive down, and they're just happy. And I think that's pretty interesting, because I don't know, I just feel like there's something more going on here, especially with the Owen's made up brother and stuff we see at the beginning. Is Owen just imagining all of this? Did Annie actually leave? Because it all is so coincidental, and the show is a pretty bleak type of show, so for it to have this type of ending, it just felt a little jarring. Not something that I would say couldn't happen, but it was just very different from what I would expect from the show to have. But overall, I think that the ending is pretty much saying that, fantasy or not, Owen and Annie are happy, and maybe the clinical trial, that's all it was trying to do, is suppress these things and have them just be happy. And I think that was interesting of the show to pretty much show and do. But overall, what do you think? Do you think that Annie and Owen made it out of a simulation? Do you think that they are finally out and happy and are going to live a better life together? Or do you think that they are still stuck in this simulation? Now, I'm definitely going to make another video on this as I rewatch the episodes again and more thorough analysis. But on a first viewing, I really do believe that they might not have made it out of the simulation and they might still be in that last one, which was confrontation. And maybe after the episode ended, they did pretty much wake up. And I think that that is pretty interesting thing to look into. But I don't know. You let me know your thoughts. Definitely a show that has people talking, and that's what a show has to do. I haven't seen this much people's interpretation of the things and looking at the minor details in a show, I think, since Inception came out. And that was probably like 2008, so 10 years. So, yeah, I don't know. You let me know your thoughts. What do you think about Maniac as well? Did you enjoy it? Did you like it? I really dug Cary Joji Fukunaga's show, and I cannot wait to see him take on Bond 25. Let me know your thoughts. Comment all that below. As I said, 2 more videos on Maniac coming this week. Definitely will have that hallucination dream explanation video and a more thorough analysis, and I'll see if my theory still holds up that this was a simulation. I'm going to look at all the details. I want to know everything there is about this show. Anyways, as always, that's going to do it for me. I'll see y'all next time. Stay positive, my friends.